Hi there, and welcome to the Everyday Entrepreneur Podcast, where I, Kaitlin Fritz, help you reach your entrepreneurial potential. Together, we can build your dream social impact business so that you can leave a legacy beyond your 9-to-5. Hello. Welcome to this episode of Everyday Entrepreneurship. First off, I have to thank all of you for listening and giving our first podcast launch some extra love. I am mind blown with all of the reviews and the ratings. I truly appreciate it. This has been on my heart for 2 years to really showcase the diversity of what entrepreneurship is. So thank you. And I'm proud to say that every week I'll be joining your headphones, earbuds, or wireless speakers, however you listen, on Tuesdays. So subscribe so you get the best up-to-date content when we launch on Tuesdays. And I also want to say we have some really cool stuff coming down the pipeline this month. Today, we're going to talk all about your strengths. And this month, we're going to have interviews from social impact founders, as well as some practical episodes on how to start a business with no money. So stay tuned for all of that incredible content coming down the pipeline. But today I want to talk about knowing your strengths. Oftentimes we think of our strengths as maybe a skill we're really good at or a process, technical tool that we just excel in. But I want to dig a little deeper and talk about entrepreneurial strengths. By understanding your entrepreneurial strength, you are able to utilize that wherever you solve problems, whether that's the boardroom or out on the field. And by knowing your strengths, if you aim to embark on a social impact business, you will understand maybe what business types align best with your natural skill set and talents. By working with 600 plus founders from Sudan to Singapore, Boston to Birmingham, I've had conversations and really dug deep onto what I see the 7 entrepreneurial strengths are. And I've done a little research in this as well. So basing off of some of the strength research done by the EU Entrecom framework, I've designed my own entrepreneurial strength wheel. The Entrepreneurial Strength Wheel will allow you to really see what skills you align at and how you can bring these strengths into your business. So let's talk about these 7 and how they might look like in your life. The first entrepreneurial strength is being analytical. Now, I know if we have some Excel lovers out here or some accountants, you might feel like you naturally fit in this box, but I am going to tell you that you might not fit that stereotype. I'm not talking about analytical as in you studied math or you studied statistics. I am talking about having a fine eye for detail. You are able to see the trees within the giant forest. You're able to see these minute elements. Maybe it is in finance or economics or even in art that other people often overlook. You can be analytical and not be in a STEM field. It is just a strength that you can bring into refining those details in your business. The second strength is being tactile. Now, I know you're probably thinking of, maybe a handyman or a contractor or someone who's very good at building. That's true, but being tactile means that you are able to learn and problem solve by doing. You're the one in the meeting who's making the paper prototype as a colleague is talking through their ideas. You're the one who is pulling out the Post-its, getting on the whiteboard, and really building that idea, whether it is physically, maybe with some Play-Doh or with some prototyping materials, or by doing the process. A lot of people are actually more tactile than we realize. And they're able to build and spend their time like not a minute has passed. Now, this third entrepreneurial strength is being risk adverse. Now, oftentimes people think risk adversity means being careless. And I just want to stop you right there. Being risk adverse is not carelessness, is not being frivolous, is not, avoiding all of the uncertainties. How I see risk aversion is being able to make decisions with limited information. They are the individuals who are not afraid to try something new, take on a new adventure. And they're the ones who might be the friends who are trying all the new restaurants in town. Being risk adverse means that you're able to weigh out the risks, the rewards, and understand how to make a decision based on that information. We all have someone in our friend group who's probably has a risk adverse entrepreneurial tendency. They're those friends who always convince me to try something new or try a new sport, etc. Gotta love them. Now, the fourth entrepreneurial trait is being communicative. This doesn't exactly mean being the most talkative. Being communicative means that you are able to bridge the gap between audience, presenter, information, and user in a way that other people can't. You can take complicated information and really synthesize it in a way that a 7 or a 70-year-old could understand and relate with. Maybe it's the way you're able to utilize language and or images to really get your point across. These are the ones that are able to share the big idea to the people who need it and use it the most. They might be your friends who are awesome at copywriting, doing those presentations, being able to strike up a conversation and find that relatability with anyone. Being communicative is a really underrated entrepreneurial trait. The fifth entrepreneurial trait is being creative. Now, oftentimes we think about our artistic friends, those ones who are able to sketch and draw and paint and do all of those amazing, quote-unquote, creative things. But if you haven't gotten the memo yet with analytical and tactile and all these other traits, we are breaking the stereotype of what it means to be creative. Being creative is being able to look at a problem from a completely new light. It's being able to take information, ideas, and inspiration from various elements and combine them to make something new. That might mean there's some artistic tendencies, but I've seen some really, really creative economists, and I've seen really creative medical professionals. It's the way you frame and approach the problem that, no one has ever thought of it that way before. So that is our fifth entrepreneurial trait. We're almost at 7, guys. So our sixth is being a leader. Now, leadership comes in all shapes and sizes. Some people might immediately jump to something like the military. Other people might think of their boss or their professor. Being a leader means that you are able to really motivate people towards a common goal. It's like being a conductor in an orchestra. The conductor is really nothing without all of the instruments and the individuals. but the conductor is there to make sure everyone is on the right path. So you might have skills with people management, project management, or you might have that history of leading your intramural softball team, leading that group project, or even looking back in your childhood, maybe being called a little bit bossy. I know I was called a bit bossy in 6th grade. Now I just say I have strong leadership potential. But that is what I mean by being a leader. And last but not least, being empathetic. Being empathetic, some people might think of it as, oh, you're being sensitive. But I think that is completely not the point. You are able to step in and see perspectives that other people can't. You are able to jump into another person's shoes, feel, think, hear all of the emotions, the feelings, pains, and gains that person is feeling. You have this innate way of being relatable and emotive. And being empathetic as an entrepreneur is so critical, especially when it comes to the social impact space, because you are able to not just solve a problem, but solve it from a human-centered way. Now, just as a recap, we talked about 7 unique entrepreneurial strengths. They include being analytical, being tactile, being risk adverse, being communicative, being creative, really being a leader, and last but not least, being empathetic. So these strengths might look different on where you work, what you've studied, or what you're passionate about. Like I mentioned, you can have an analytical artist, or you can have a very empathetic accountant. I don't want you to think your current role, your past roles define your entrepreneurial strengths, because they don't. They allow you to really understand what are your innate talents and how that can align with your business or future business idea. I want to make sure that though there are these 7 amazing strengths, there's hundreds of skill sets that lean into being an entrepreneur. And I don't want you to get tunnel vision on one or another. But it's important that when you're on this journey of building a business with impact, that you understand where you fit in, because the founder is the most important element of any business. I would argue in any stage, but especially in the early stages. And it's important that you build a business that you're passionate about, and it's not like pieces of a puzzle being forced to fit together rather than naturally building out that picture. Now, I positioned all of these strengths in a wheel. I think we have a little bit of probably all of them, but there's probably 1, maybe 2 that really speak to you and your strengths. Now, why is this important? Well, by knowing your strengths, you can leverage your unique skill sets. And you can really align your strengths with your current or future business idea. There are certain businesses that lean into some of these strengths, and maybe there are some that might feel like they lean away. For example, someone who is very empathetic might enter the service-based industry, or someone who is tactile might be a more natural fit in product or fast-moving consumer goods. Once again, this is not a one-size-fits-all, but by having these moments and reflecting on what your entrepreneurial strengths are, you are able to build a business and in return build a legacy that aligns with your natural talent and passion. if you want to learn a little bit about your entrepreneurial strength, I've created a quick quiz that will allow you to not only understand your strength, but see what business ideas and skills align. So if you want to take that quiz, either DM me quiz on my Instagram or check out the show notes for the link in the bio. I really want you to take a moment and have a self-date of reflection. Grab yourself a coffee, grab your phone or laptop, take the quiz, and think about it. Think about what your friends might say are your best strengths. What would your parents, highlight as some of your key skill sets? What has your work history really aligned with? By knowing you will be able to build the best business that suits your lifestyle and the way you want to leave your legacy of impact. So thank you again for tuning in to this episode. Check out the visual wheel on my Instagram and be sure to take that quiz because I'd love to hear, what your results are. Maybe you're going to be surprised or maybe they're exactly what you thought. So drop me a line, give me a follow wherever you listen to podcasts. And until next time, this is Everyday Entrepreneurship. Thank you for joining me for this episode of Everyday Entrepreneurship. To stay tuned and most up to date, subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. You can follow me, Kaitlin Fritz, on Instagram. And if you have any questions about building your business with impact, drop me an email with the link in the show notes. This podcast is produced by the great people at the Podcast Boutique. I look forward to catching up with you next week. See you then.